So we'll go ahead and get started. I want to thank everybody for joining our first quarter 2021 AFCOM Southern California chapter webinar and panel discussion. Just a little bit about our chapter. AFCOM Southern California chapter is a not-for-profit organization focused on promoting an ecosystem of communication between IT teams, IT operations, and their data center teams on current trends. Today, we've got a panel discussion with our IT thought leaders here in Southern California. I also want to draw your attention to that we do have our LinkedIn page, and you can search for it on LinkedIn for just searching AFCOM Southern California chapter. It is a listed page. You can also see the link there above and the actual group number. Reason why I want to point that out to you is that all of the slides that you're seeing today during our webinar are actually already uploaded to that page. So you don't have to kind of write down everything. You can go back and just check the actual page. So kicking off our session here today, again, we're going to have the panel discussion, but we always start with the president's message. We start with then followed by a news roundup, which Brad from our board is going to take on today. And then we're going to give it over to Di to lead our panel discussion, followed by the last 10 minutes of this presentation of the overall session are going to be Q&A. So it's very important to note in the lower bottom of your corner here, bottom of your page, is a Q&A tab, and there's a chat tab. Chat is disabled, but for this session, if you want to ask questions of our CIO panelists, use the Q&A tab, and then we'll go through, field as many of those questions in the last 10 minutes as we can. So first and foremost, I want to hand it over to Dave Sipes, who is the president of our chapter. And I see John smiling because he sees his face. This is a surprise for John.
Yeah. Hey, folks. Thanks for joining the discussion today. And we have such exciting lineup for everyone today that we had to do it twice. Last week wasn't enough for everyone. We had to do it a second time. But thanks again for joining the Q1 meeting. I just wanted to announce a few board changes that we've had over the last few months. First of all, in the Los Angeles market, I'm still the president of the chapter, but we have brought on Diane Campbell-Delson has joined our board, and she's bringing such great knowledge and diversity and everything else. And we're throwing her into the fire today as being our moderator. So thanks, Di, for jumping in. Also, Helen Norris, I think we talked about this last time a little bit. Helen Norris has joined us as a CIO advisory. What her role is to join us once a quarter to talk about the trends that they're seeing within the industry and how we can bring better content to our end users. And so thanks, Helen, for your ongoing support there. In our San Diego market, we still have Doug Ahman and Brad Schultes, and they bring such value from the overall content that we bring to you guys and overall support of the board. In the Orange County market, we have Jason Shepard and John Robertson. And I just do have to make an announcement that John Robertson will be leaving us this quarter. This is his last quarter. He has joined forces with another organization that will be moving him and taking his talent on, and he's going to be a great asset to where he's going. So we're really excited to have John join us since 2016. He's been a board member since 2016, and as you can see, the great president that he is there at the podium when we were at the Nixon Library. We had to throw it up there, John, and show a little bit. We do have a presentation for John. We've got this Nice little trophy for him that will be coming his way. It's going to be personally delivered by Doug Allman. And, thanks to the board for, for all their efforts in helping to see John away. And thanks, John, for all your support over the last few years. And everybody, send John a quick email and, thank him for his years of support here at the AFCOM Southern California chapter. So with
David,
that, I'm going to go ahead. Yes, sir.
One more thing to add there. With John moving out of state, that's going to open up an opportunity for more board members to join. So we're always looking for talent. John, I also want to say thank you very much for all your help. You've been a fantastic addition to the board over the last 5 years. If you are interested in joining our board, we're still looking for people up in Los Angeles. We're going to need to replace somebody here in Orange County, but it's all about value-add IT thought leadership as we go into the next wave of the future. Thanks, David. Thanks, everybody. We're going to move on to the news roundup. Again, these slides have all been posted to our SharePoint, all posted to our LinkedIn page. And so you can go there to see the details. But Brad, I'll hand it over to you to go through the news roundup.
Thanks, Jason. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. This is going to be a great discussion today. I got a little bit of a preview of this discussion a couple of weeks ago. We're going to do an abbreviated news roundup so we can get, with the time we have remaining, back to the panel discussion. Let me first start with a retrospective Network World article that was posted in Q4 of last year, predicting the IT spend, or I'd say the decline in IT spend for the year 2020. The prediction was an 8% reduction in 2020 versus 2019. And the prediction for 2021 is about a 4% growth over last year. That still puts us down about 4% from 2019. So not super bright from an IT spend. The shining star looks like it's going to be enterprise software, and a lot of this is going to be around digitization efforts and the ability to support remote collaboration in workforces. Next slide. I'm gonna skip this one and just note that this one is posted to our website, but these are predictions from the IDC for 2020 for the entire IT industry. A lot of this is cloud centric, a lot of migration to multi-cloud. And I'm going to leave this one as a read for later. You can take a look at the LinkedIn page or actually find this article.
Just one quick point is, as you read these slides, you'll see that the definitive words like will, shall are highlighted just to help you read those to understand, hey, what is the actual what are the actions that are being dictated here? So
this is the one I found the most interesting. This is a recent survey done by the Poneman Institute, sponsored by Vertiv. This was released January, so last month. And this was a study based upon core and edge computing facilities. And for those of us in the data center hardware supplier side of the market, we've been hearing the word edge for years. And it really has kind of been a little confusing as to how do we define the edge. And obviously the edge compute is workloads that are moved closer to the user versus having to home run back to a core data center. We're starting to see some of this edge data centers pop up, and it's starting to actually take some shape. And as we know, the edge data centers are typically significantly smaller than the core facilities. And for this study, which had about 110 end users, the average core data center was between 5,000 and 20,000 square feet, where the edge data centers were significantly smaller, less than 2,500 square feet. Next slide. So we've always been wanting to know who are the owners of these edge facilities. Now, this is not representative of all edge. This is representative of those that were surveyed. And there's actually 108 companies across 132 data centers and about 1,700 edge facilities. Interesting enough, about 50% of the people surveyed here, are the largest chunk of those that have edge facilities, were not really who I would have expected. Again, this is the sample survey. E-commerce, financial, retail, and government consumed over 50% of those edge facilities. I found that very interesting because we've always tried to define who these users are going to be. Next slide. All right, so here's kind of the real meat of this study, and this was showing the uptime of these individual, the average uptime of these facilities, be it core or edge facilities. And over a 24-month period, it was found that the core data centers had 4.81 on average shutdowns over a 24-month period, which is a little bit higher, actually a lot higher than I was kind of expecting for this survey. The edge facilities had higher shutdowns over a 24-month period of about 5.39. I'm not entirely surprised that the edge facilities might have a little bit more downtime than the core, but still a lot higher than I would have predicted. Interesting enough, the recovery time for the core data centers was around 138 minutes over that 2-year period, and the edge facilities was around 45. This makes better sense. A lot of the edge facilities we find are not built with the same complexity, and they might be a little bit more easier to manage from the personnel on site. What was interesting is they talked about some of the factors that cause these shutdowns. Cybersecurity attacks being one of them, IT equipment failure, UPS and battery failure, and then the human error component. And the human error component historically was about 60+% of data center outages. They didn't break these down exactly how they, in what percentages these outages were attributed to, but I'm expecting cyber attacks would have a little bit more weight than we've seen historically. Next slide, please. So when these users were asked what can be done to prevent these outages in the future, obviously everybody felt that budget was the biggest constraint. But when they broke them down into categories, the two most important for data center downtime were improved IT equipment and improved security practices. And I'm assuming that's not physical security, that's cybersecurity practices. So those first two items I think can be lumped into an IT category. And then back on the point I made earlier about the human component, I think if you look at the last three, which is hire additional staff, better staff training, and improved documentation, you can really say that this is probably the human component of operating a data center and trying to minimize the human error. Very interesting survey. This is very facility centric, and I wanted to make sure that we as a data center consortium had some sort of a facility perspective on the data centers that we work, operate, and use personally. Next slide. I think, Jason, you're going to take the next one.
Sure. So again, this is just an article that came out with Network Computing magazine, talking about multi-cloud, how multi-cloud will dominate in 2021. We spent a lot of time in our recent AFCOM Southern California chapter meetings talking about cloud. It's not just the cloud. It's really literally every software as a service provider that's providing their software as a service. That's a cloud and a SaaS model. Infrastructure as a service is IaaS. That's a different cloud. And so really today it's more of a hybrid model of different operating mechanisms. And so it's really the terminology these days is hybrid multi-cloud. And so this particular article is just illustrating that, hey, look, we've now determined, as if we hadn't known before, that it really is multi-cloud. And so we believe that sometimes the IT teams and data center teams can confuse internal business stakeholders, CFOs, et cetera, by referring to things such as the cloud, when it's really multi-cloud. So just so we can all start to kind of use the appropriate terminology. Again, this is just the same article continued. Again, the illustration that infrastructure is complex in multi-cloud. Going to co-location facilities, which we call hybrid co-location, where there is an ecosystem of cloud solutions that you can actually cross-connect into. That's a big trend we're continuing to see grow in popularity. And really going into 2021 and going forward, it's going to be more of a balanced approach to on-premises versus just all-in-one. So, and the last slide here before we get to the panel discussion is just, these are just the Forrester Research predictions for 2021. There are 12 of them. We're only going to cover 4 here. Obviously, CIOs are taking the lead with their organizations, as it's all with all these multi-layer approaches. COVID has changed leadership in hiring practices forever. Cloud taking center stage. Cloud will go 35%. But also we see down below, just like one of the first slides that Brad talked about, is using appropriate definitions. In this particular circumstance, edge is the new cloud, right? Cloud was the biggest buzzword for a while, but now we're starting to identify it really as multi-cloud. Edge is really utilizing that compute power closer to the end users. It's kind of like the old trick question. They're not all Fortune 500 companies are headquartered in Los Angeles. They're in secondary and tertiary markets across the country where you don't necessarily have the same level of data center service that you do here. That said, there is a need for smaller to medium-sized data centers in those secondary and tertiary markets to provide that cloud service. So as we go forward, these terms will start to become commonplace. And the last point here is that this Forrester Research makes is that, look, with edge, the hyperscale community, growing in Northern Virginia, for instance, those organizations will start to not them decline, but the sizes will start to that growth will start to decline as that marketplace for hybrid cloud matures. That's the point here. So anyway, those are some of the headlines. You can find all of these on our LinkedIn page. And then what we'd like to do now is shift into the panel discussion of CIOs led by Di from our board.